Marriage. Marriage can be the most amazing experience two people who are married can have, be actually happily married. However, this thought may seem far-fetched because there's so much that we learn about marriage. Nowadays, we live in a different time. The advice that our parents may have given us, or advice that we've heard from people in the past generations, may seem as though it can't be applied in the same way this time, in our time. However, today I'm going to share with you 10 commandments of marriage that were taken from Rabbi Avigdor Miller of blessed memory, and as well as some of my own insights. And these will hopefully help us have better clarity on how to make the marriage that you have even better, and to internalize and to experience how to have a good marriage. Not a perfect marriage, but a good marriage. A marriage where two people can actually enjoy being partners in this world and enjoy having a relationship of a husband and wife the way it's meant to be. So, 10 commandments of marriage. Commandment number 1: do not tell everything. Rabbi Avigdor Miller said, do not tell everything. A man once approached Rabbi Avigdor Miller with a dilemma, and he said, my wife thinks I'm a big tzaddik, a righteous man, but I'm really not. What should I do? Shouldn't I tell her my faults? To this, Rabbi Avigdor Miller responded, absolutely not. If only you could keep fooling her for the next 120 years. So, what is this really telling us? It's telling us that we really don't need to tell our spouse all our faults, or in general, we don't really need to tell our spouse everything in our lives, all our thoughts and all our emotions. We may have heard that couples should be each other's best friend, tell each other everything. However, not everything needs to be said. For example, if you know that what you will say is not so important, or that it will trigger a negative reaction in a spouse, then why would you say it? For example, let's say a couple is watching their spending, and the husband told the wife, listen, just don't spend too much money. If you spend on something big, let me know, and we'll talk about it, and we'll have to decide if it's worth spending on. Just let me know. So the wife one day was walking, down the street, and walked into a store that said it's closing down, and she saw a beautiful outfit. And so it's closing down, so she felt the need to get it. She thought it would be so beautiful. Let's say it was Rosh Chodesh, the time of the month for the woman to celebrate being a woman. Rosh Chodesh, we have it every single month. And she wanted to buy herself a present, a gift, and reward herself. Now, if she were to come home and tell her husband, today I spent this much money, and it was pricey, this much money on this dress, and the store's closing down, and I had to get it, and it's really worth it, and I'm sure I'm going to look beautiful in it. I tried it on. You have to see it. It's beautiful. Now, he may get upset over this. Yet, if she decides not to tell him everything all at once, in other words, maybe wear it on Shabbat or wear it on a special occasion where she wears the outfit and then he sees it on her and he likes it and he may compliment her, and then she'll mention, I got this about a week ago, and I'm glad you like it. And this way he'll respond in a more softer tone, a pleasant tone. And even though, yes, he's still watching the budget and she needs to be conscious of it, it'll be a more pleasant experience between both of them. So not everything needs to be said all the time. We need to be careful in what we share with our spouse, meaning, of course, not to hide any secrets. However, to be genuine, but the details, things that are unimportant, things that are trivial, things that may trigger a negative reaction, really probably should be left unsaid. Okay. Commandment number 2. This is extremely important. Commandment number 2 is another one of Rabbi Avigdor's blessed memories commandments. It is, do not disturb the routine of marriage. Do not disturb the routine of marriage. In other words, let's say you're upset at your spouse and it's dinner time. Now, though, if the wife decides not to make dinner, that's disturbing the routine of marriage. Feelings are, and yes, they're upset at each other, or maybe one of them is upset at, the spouse. Feelings will come and go, they'll work it out, but the routine of marriage needs to continue. The routine of marriage needs to continue in order for the spouses to regain their lives together in the way that it was, the tone that it was. And it's easier that way. So, in order for us not to disturb the routine of marriage, bring the kids to school when they're supposed to go to school. If you have a task such as setting up your husband's lunch and preparing it and breakfast, continue even though you're upset. And it may soften him. It may soften him saying, wow, she prepared my lunch, she prepared my breakfast, even though we're upset at each other. And he may soften up. And it'll alleviate the stress and tension in the relationship. I remember Rabbi Leah Brody once said, Shabbat is such a special time between in the family that the food and the singing and dressing nice and the nice home and how everything is so prepared, it really lends itself to a gorgeous atmosphere where the husband and wife, even if they were upset each other before Shabbat, and we all know how Shabbat can be, where it's very stressful and tense, usually right before when everybody's trying to get ready, and sometimes it could be a negative atmosphere where people get upset at each other. That's what the Satan wants. That's what the Yetzer Hara wants, not for the Jewish people to be in shalom, in peace with one another. So that's why right before Shabbat, when the family's hoping to be together and enjoying their time together, that's when the Yetzer Hara tries to manipulate the family and make them against each other. So if we're smart and if we're conscious about it, we'll know that to continue making Shabbat happen, to continue bringing the kids to school, to continue cooking for your spouse, continue doing all your tasks that you usually do, and the tension and the stress will alleviate itself. Number 3, Rabbi Victor Miller said to be realistic. Be realistic. Have real expectations of your spouse. Have real expectations in your marriage. It's very important not to compare your marriage to somebody else's marriage. Your marriage is worlds apart from someone else's marriage. It's not meant to be the same. It's hard for us not to compare because we can easily see and contact other people. And it's important for us to be real, to know that if my husband or the spouse has a fault, to be aware of that. This is their fault. If they have a fault in not being timely, in not spending money wisely, in being a little bit less cleanly, we have to have real expectations that this is one of the things that they have about themselves that they're weak in. And it's important to look at each other with rosy colored glasses, and we'll speak about that even more. Number 4 is one of my own commandments. It says to stop taking each other so seriously. Many times couples have arguments about what he said, what she said, what he meant, what she meant, and it goes in circles, and it could be the same argument over and over again because we just take each other's words or actions too seriously. A woman enjoys affection from her husband and is much more emotional, usually. So she may take a gesture of her husband's. Let's say he came late. Oh, you don't love me. You don't think it's important for me to go wherever I need to go because you didn't make time to be on time. So she takes it to heart. And she may blow it up out of proportion, which means that we take this action way too seriously compared to the whole marriage. This really situation is very minuscule. So not to take each other too seriously, meaning feelings come and go. if we stick to the routine of marriage, we'll realize that this is really so small. It's really not so important. Now you're not as upset as you were a little while ago when it first happened. We must remember that the most of life and anger stems from trivial matters. Most of life is trivial. It's the small things in life. Today it's a big deal, but in an hour and in a day may be so insignificant. Most of the times when couples argue because the spouse did not intend to hurt the spouse that way, or to say something that would trigger negative reactions in the other spouse. So it is important to remember that not to take each other so seriously. If you have each other's values, the big values, um, all on the same level, you value each other, you value your children, you value your home, your way of life. All the other things are very trivial. So it's really important. Even the religious level, which I know the couples that I've coached, the women that I've coached, it's not easy. But even on the religious level, it could definitely be lived with, tolerated, and if this is our bashert, if this is the person we marry, then they are our bashert. This is the person you're destined to be with, to be a greater you. Number 5, Rabbi Avigdor Miller said to have a personal rabbi. Have a personal rabbi to discuss matters that you and your spouse are not able to solve, right? If you're arguing with your husband over and over about the same thing, perhaps it's time for you to consult your rabbi. Now, this rabbi needs to be somebody that you respect and your husband respects, and you will listen to. Now, doesn't mean that you both have to listen word for word, no. But it does mean that if you're consulting with them, they're giving you advice. They have to know you well enough to give you the advice. They have to know your background, to know where you're coming from, you know. So a good rabbi, someone you can trust, both of you. And it's important for me to say that if your spouse does not do everything the rabbi says, it's okay. As long as you've let it out, as long as you've shared your thoughts, now the rabbi has a different perspective on the matter, and usually it just helps so much. A man has a bigger ego, so that's why it's really difficult for him to listen to another man. But because your husband loves you, because you tell him this is important to me, I know this is something we've been talking about a lot, of make me so happy if we just speak to someone and we'll be able to discuss this and hopefully solve this issue that we've been having for a while. So just remember, as long as you confide in someone that you both trust and both respect, and even if just the wife consults, or usually it's the wife who wants to consult, it's harder for the men. It's okay. Be patient. Give your husband time. And because he knows that it's important to you, eventually he will be able to solve the problem with you, where it works for both of you. Okay. Commandment number 6. Be loyal and display your regard to your mate. Rabbi Avigdor Miller said, be loyal to your husband. Now, it really means to view your husband as the highest regard. Even if you have an argument with your husband, now you go to your parents' house, that you can't put your husband down, right? You can't put him down. He always needs to be looked up in the eyes of you and your parents, especially your side of the family, because any tension you have with your husband can be resolved. But once you involve family, the spouse is looked differently by the family. This is a bias, so we don't really want to involve family. Only in certain cases, when the family is very helpful, maybe you want to consult the rabbi, but usually we don't want to involve family. So be loyal and display your regard to your mate, to your mate and to other people. Compliment your spouse in front of your parents. Compliment your spouse. Bring him up. Men get put down very easily, and it takes hard work to bring them up again. So we don't want to bring them down, and we want to be loyal and always support them. Number 7, Victor Miller teaches to look good. We want to be pleasant in the eyes of our spouse. And there's no excuse where a woman can say, oh, but I'm tired, I have so much to do, it's the end of the day, I looked great in the morning. Yes, maybe the woman looked great in the morning going to work. Or you know what? When the woman decides to go shopping, all of a sudden she may have a few seconds or minutes just to look more put together. But when it comes to our spouse, we're like, oh, we're married. It's not important. It's very important. Being married, getting married is very easy. Staying married, staying happily married, it takes work. It's a garden. It needs nurturing. It needs watering. You need to fertilize the soil for your marriage to be healthy. Every day, every minute is a gift. Every minute is a gift being married to your spouse, and every second you're a new couple. Every single second, it's a different couple. We want to make sure that we look put together for our spouse. Do we wear our best clothes? No, but we look pleasant. We look presentable. We don't look like we, if you have a baby, if you were cooking and your clothes got stained or dirty from your activities of the day, make sure before your husband comes home, you look presentable. You look put together. And that it sends a loud message that your husband is number one, and he is. Okay. Number 8. Number 8 is love your neighbor as yourself. In other words, treat your spouse the way you want to be treated. A quick example is, and that's Rabbi Victor Miller's commandment, love thy neighbor as yourself. A quick example can be, you want your time for yourself, right? And you want your husband to respect that. And you also love quality time with your husband. So when you see him having time to himself, no matter what he's doing, you may feel like the need to spend time with him. I want to spend time with you. I want your attention. Yet, what happens? We take it to heart. Oh, he doesn't want to spend time with me. I'm not important. And we take those things to heart. Yet, we want to treat them just like we want ourselves to be treated. We want our times to be respected. We want our time to be valued. We want to have a personal space. So we want to give the same treatment to our husbands. Number 9 is my personal commandment. Make the small things matter. There's a quote that says, great people do simple things in a great way. Great people do simple things in a great way. Oftentimes we go out of our way to plan vacations, anniversaries, and get-togethers, and we spend a lot of money, spend a lot of thought, and we look our best. And great, but you know how many times that happens throughout our marriage? Okay, the anniversaries are happening once a year. Maybe the vacations are happening once or twice a year. But giving thought to our marriage, doing the simple things, speaks a loud message. So something like packing your spouse's lunch, saying goodbye and wishing him a good day, greeting your spouse with a smile, making a cup of tea, making time to call your spouse every day just to say hello, making time to sit with your husband during dinner time, even though you ate and you're not washing dishes at the same time, and he's not watching TV and eating while you're washing dishes. No, this is your 5, 10, 15 minutes together. You're married anew. You're a new couple. As we said, every second, you need to nurture your marriage. So it's really important for us to do these things in a nice way. Now, does it happen every single time? No, it should happen most of the time. And that shows that we value our marriage. We value our spouse. It's very, very important. The simple things. The way we act as a spouse in public, in a restaurant, it's very dignified, put together, respectful, we look beautiful. But yet at home, how do we act? And that's really important. That's every single couple can grow from that. So these gestures that I mentioned, they don't take much time and they don't take money. But the way we do them speaks loudly, talking about the quality of our marriage. Simple things, how we do things in our marriage. And number 10 is also my commandment, make quality time together. This is so big. Make it consistent, whether it's once a week, whether it's once every 2 weeks. Make it a time on the calendar, whether it's every Saturday night, every Sunday night. It doesn't matter really what you do, where you go, how much money you spend, but it's so important that you're together, doing something together, whether it's 30 minutes, an hour, however much time you have. Every marriage has a different dynamic. So we want to make sure that we put our marriage first, not our children, not our jobs, and not our parents, our marriage. So it comes first. No matter what, I have a date with my husband. No matter what, a woman needs to say, I'm making time for my husband, making time for my spouse. We need to make that time. Even if our spouse doesn't see that it's important, it is important. And our spouse will eventually see that as long as we continue to make that time. These 10 commandments of marriage are so incredibly important. There's many more commandments, and every single marriage can be even better. I'm working very hard on all of these commandments myself, and I wish that Hashem guides us all and enables us with strength and wisdom to carry on and make our marriages even better. And I hope these were very beneficial. These are taken from the book called Direction by Chaya and Rabbi Simcha Furman. Leah Abramov, Being and Becoming, awakening awareness of your greatness and potential.